For your first practice class, and to learn your first practice, we're going to learn yogic natural breathing. In traditional Kundalini Hatha Yoga, breathing and energy, breath practice, energy practice, is emphasized over posture practice. So the first class we're going to start with is, what is a yogic breath, and how do we start to get in touch with that flow of what we call prana in and out of our body and within our body. This is the key to opening up the whole energetic world of Kundalini Hatha Yoga. Prana comes in 5 types in a human body. Well, actually 45 types by other counts, but 5 basic types, and you can learn about this in Primal Ayurveda course. So the pranas have 5 different functions. Some pranas are moving energy down in the body, some are moving up in the body, some are bringing it out to extremities, some are circulating, some are digesting, So there are 5 different basic strong types of prana that rule the body. There's also what we call the inner and outer wind way of categorizing prana. And this is a little bit more relevant to Kundalini Hatha Yoga than the 5 pranas that talked about in Ayurveda a lot, though that is relevant to some degree. The outer wind is breathing. The inner wind is the energy that moves, the subtle prana that moves within the channels, within the chakra, and even radiated outward, etc. So we have inner and outer winds. And we're going to slowly, over each level of Kundalini Hatha Yoga practice, bring ourselves from more of a gross understanding of the wind, the breath, into a more subtle understanding in the channels and how they are linked, especially in the beginning years of practice. Later at higher levels, the link kind of separates a bit. But for now, it's really important for us to get into our breathing so we can start to really get into a kind of a visceral, real tactile connection to our prana, our life force energy. Prana is a Sanskrit word for life force energy. So it's pretty simple to describe like this. When you're alive, you're sitting there, your prana's functioning well, prana's flowing into your body, animating your body. And when you're dead, it's not, no longer there. Western science has been searching forever to find out what is that moment when we go from live to dead? How does it actually occur? And it's interesting because it is physiological to an extent, but that physiology is commanded and run by the life force, the prana. So when the prana leaves, you're done, right? So it's not so much when your tissues are slowing down, that's all being commanded by the prana itself. As long as there's still prana in the body, the person will stay alive. You can see this in situations where someone's hanging on their deathbed till someone comes to talk to them that they wanted to talk to before they die or something. And then they say, okay, now I'm complete. And they just let go. So their consciousness and the prana are linked together. The consciousness says, time to go. The prana says, okay, and leaves, and then the body dies finally, right? I've seen this a lot with people I was working with who were dying. They could be down to the lowest blood pressures you can barely imagine, like 6/2. Literally, someone I knew was dying and had 6/2 blood pressure for like a whole day. It sounds incredible, but they were still alive. And then finally they let go after clearing something with somebody. So this is life and death energy. This is the energy of the inner winds, the energy that gives us our practice, basically, the subtle energy of our experience of our essence. And it can be experienced as dualistic energy, semi-non-dualistic, or non-dualistic energy. Over the 5 levels of Trikamahasita Yoga in this Kundalini Hatha Yoga program, in the Way of Fire, you're going to go from that gross level all the way up to the most subtle until you're in your essence itself, and the sense of spacious awareness and energy as a different experience can't even be sensed anymore. It's all just one experience. So the practice of working, or the practices or the ways of working with the breath in yoga are called pranayama. Pranayama. This means life force, prana, and ayama. Put prana together with ayama and you get pranayama. The ayama part means to stretch and expand. Sometimes people say pranayama means to control the breath. That's a misunderstanding of the word. They're breaking up the word with prana and yama, restraint of the breath, but this is incorrect. It's pranayama, which is to expand the breath, which means to touch your essence energy and understand its unlimited nature. That's really what we're doing with pranayama. Okay, so it's energy cultivation practice. It's conscious breathing, right? So on a physiological level, we're going from unconscious breathing through our mouth or nose or whatever to taking over that process, controlling that process. When we do that, we shift the control from the brain center here to up here. So that right away is a very interesting shift and activates more frontal lobe, brings more awareness because it is run by awareness itself, right? Now, when you're breathing through your mouth, if you are a mouth breather, try to observe yourself during the day and see if you're a mouth breather or a nose breather. If you're a mouth breather during normal daylight activities, normal, whatever you do, see if you can switch it to your nose. Very clear studies showing that there is a massive change in even as much as your skull structure, that they can see that mouth breathers have a different skull structure than nose breathers. That nose breathers actually get an expansion through this area, which is incredible, and probably different brain function as well. So we really want to be nose breathers, if at all possible. Now, for this yogic natural breathing, and you start to do this practice each day in the program now, do it once in the morning and once at night in your practice pro forma. This is the first practice of your practice pro forma. Every time you get another practice, we'll slot it in place and we'll review the whole set, right? So right now, we're going to emphasize breathing practice to start to begin that long process of connecting to our essential energy. So in understanding how we breathe, without going into a lot of physiology, the lobes of the lungs, we're trying to attempt to fill them all. There are many lobes or sections of the lungs. We want to fill them all up. We also want to empty them all out. Very hard to do. In normal breathing, like a normal person's life who's not an athlete, who doesn't do yogic breathing, they may go their whole lives, and this is true, without ever exchanging much of the gas in the upper part of the lungs. When we breathe normally, the gas goes into the lower lobes of the lungs and then comes back out. Lower lobes of the lungs and goes back out when we breathe shallowly. Chest breathing, shallow breathing. When we take huge breaths, that's when we start to fill the upper aspects, the apices of the lungs. We're attempting to do that with yogic natural breathing. And we'll use a hand, arm motion to accentuate that, to help that happen in the beginning. We're going to do this practice lying down after I introduce the principles of it and the technique of it sitting up. Okay, so this space up here is called physiological dead space. It's where the air hardly gets to. So we want to get that full filling experience, right? So there are 3 kumbhas in Kundalini Hatha Yoga. Kumbha is a vase, right? In Sanskrit, the word kumbha means vase. So there's a vase here that goes from my pelvic floor to my diaphragm. There's a vase from my diaphragm up to around my neck. And there's a vase from my neck to the crown of my head. 3 vases, right? And they're all connected. And they should be coordinated in their energy and their function and their consciousness. But they're not until we take on the spiritual path, follow the yogic path, awaken all the sentient nature of each one of these 3 centers, and then coordinate them into function, and then we're highly realized. That's the way this path goes. So what we want to do is to begin to bring an awareness to each one of these kumbhas. We're going to be breathing mostly in the lower and the middle kumbha. You're going to feel a little pressure in your head as you breathe, and that's a nice sensation. That also brings awareness to the upper kumbha. But we're going to be working consciously to try to expand and contract the lower and the middle kumbha, because you can't expand and contract your head too much consciously, right? And the idea is that you want to go spherical or globular. In other words, if this lower kumbha area of my body was a sphere and I'm breathing into it, I want to see it expand spherically. The front, the back, the sides, the top and bottom, all at once, okay? In the beginning, you may feel like it's a columnar type of breathing, like a column that's expanding around this way. That's okay to start that way too. If you find the spherical thing way too much, start with a column experience where the front is expanding and the back is expanding. And then you can extend that to the front, back, and sides expanding. Then, sooner or later, when you're working with the lower kumbha, the top can push up and the bottom can push down. You'll feel pressure all the way around so that a sphere experience of expansion is occurring. Same thing in the chest area. So when we breathe into the lower area, in a minute when I lay down, you're going to want to start by breathing in your belly, and then we'll try to breathe and push it into the floor in our lower back. And then we'll try to breathe out our sides a little bit. Then we'll see if we can feel it in the pelvic floor and above that. Then we'll get that spherical breathing going a bit. And then the same thing in the chest. We're going to breathe in the chest and try to have the lower chest and upper chest both expand and feel it press into the floor behind you, pushing back as well, expanding this way. But we also want to get under the armpits, expanding out this way, right? There's a lot of talk about this. You'll read about it in yogic texts from ancient times and oral teachings like we give. We want to have always some kind of space in here under the armpits so that the lung channels stay open, the side channels of yoga stay open, and we don't have paranoia, which can come from closing that stuff down. It can bring anxiety, fear, and paranoia if this area is too closed down. So we want to reverse that. We want to breathe into it and expand under the armpits. And then you'll feel the scapula, the wing bones on the back on your thorax. You want to feel them kind of lifting up and going out like this. See what I'm doing here? They're lifting up and going out on your back. This is like on my back. And then at the end, the very end, when you're filling up the upper lobes of the lungs that hardly ever get filled in that dead space area, we're going to make it live space. We want this clavicle area to lift up and to open a bit this way. So they're going to lift up and open a bit. So it's going to, you may even hear pops in your sternum, which would be a really great thing to show that they're still flexible joints, right? Usually they're frozen by a certain time in our life. So we want to lift up in there, and then where the clavicle here is over to here and up in your neck, there's kind of a little soft area, okay? Now, if we breathe correctly up into this upper area of this middle kumbha, a little bulge may come out. You may feel like a little bulge, just a very subtle thing, but we want to try to feel that in there, right in this area, a little bulging up. At that point, the neck will begin to feel full, and also you can start to get tingling in the crown, and the head might be full. We're not going to hold our breath. We're not going to squeeze any bandhas or locks of muscles. We're not going to create pressure going up. So we're not going to try to increase the pressure too much in the head or within the what's called intrathecal space inside the spinal column. We don't want to increase the pressure in there at all. With the cerebral spinal fluid getting too much pressure or the blood pressure, we want to slowly condition this breathing. That's what we're going to do today. So without further ado, I'll lay down now and we'll start doing that practice. Move the mic. Okay, so bring your awareness to your lower kumbha. You have to take a moment to settle yourself. Bring your awareness to this lower kumbha. And it'd be useful in the beginning to put your hand on it. Exhale fully. Now try to breathe into the front. Push your hand up. Keeping my chest flat. Exhale. Keeping my chest fairly flat. Here I'm breathing into the lower kumbha. You can see that going up and down. Try that with me. All up and down. Okay, let's do one more of those. We're going to take it apart first, then we'll put it together all in one big flow. So first, again, exhale. Nice and flat, cavernous, and then inhale. Think about inhaling below your navel. Gets nice and big and round, exhale. Okay, good. Now we're going to try to inhale in the front and in the back, pushing into the floor same time. So you're going to be going this way. You're going to be inhaling like this. Ready? That's a different feeling, isn't it? Now you might feel a little more restriction in here as you try to breathe out the back as well. It's okay. You will actually stretch. Over many years of breathing this way, your whole body will actually stretch. You never stretch inside here very much if you don't do this kind of breathing. So it's going to feel unusual to you in the beginning. Don't worry about that. Okay, breathing up and breathing down again. Out. You can feel your back moving away from the floor as you breathe out. Breathing in again in both directions.
Okay, now let's breathe into the sides here, these oblique areas, and breathe out. That's a hard one to feel. So it's helpful to take your hands and go like this or like this, whatever's comfortable, and try to feel it pushing out. So exhale, inhale. Still breathing in the belly, in the back, but now this is getting full too. You have to relax it at the same time as you fill it. And exhale. This comes in. Inhale. Fill here and exhale. Good. Now, it's good to do this lying down instead of standing in the beginning because you can get lightheaded, right? Now we're going to try to feel the last bit where we kind of feel the base, the pelvis filling up a little bit, pushing down, and the diaphragm area pushing up a little bit, okay? So here we go. Breathing in. Filling down into the floor, into the sides, belly, and exhaling. Did you feel anything pushing in the floor? Maybe not. It's okay if you don't feel anything I'm saying so far. It could take quite a bit of time to work on this breathing so you can feel it pressing down, feel it pushing up, filling out the sides, even in the back. Happy if you can just get this one to move for now without this one. So one way we can emphasize that is I can place a hand on my chest and one on my belly. And I can feel when this one is filling and stop doing that and relax it and only let this one fill up. Let's try. Exhale. So if you start to feel this go, and this is full now, this reaches maximum in the lower kumbha, and you start to breathe in more, your chest will start to come up. That means that you've left here, now you're here. Okay, let's work that again, just here. Spherical expansion, chest relaxed, exhale. In, sides, back, front, chest relaxed. Out. Out from the, push in from the sides, push in from the front, in from the back, top and bottom. And you make a little contraction, okay? So this is the lower kumbha breathing. Let's go to the middle kumbha now. Just filling the chest. Let's see if we can isolate that. Front of the chest lifting up, sides moving out under the armpits. Pushing into the back, into the floor. Scapulas are removed, sliding on the ribs and raising. Coming up into my neck area now. Some fillings happening in here, and exhaling just from the chest, right? Let's go again. The tongue is just softly touching the roof of the mouth. Out. See if you can squeeze out here in the sides, here in the rib. And again, you can use your two hands to just see the chest and feel the chest move. Okay, so we've learned how to isolate and breathe through the lower kumbha, isolate and breathe through the middle kumbha. If you're new to this, it may be really hard to do that. That's okay. Please don't give up. I've seen people come in with zero coordination between these three centers, and within 2 weeks, 3 weeks, they're breathing like a champ. So don't worry about that. Just work on it individually, and then eventually we'll put them together. You can put them together. Today I'm going to show you how to put them together, okay? Now, so we got this one working, this one working. We've got these guys filling up, okay, and the scapula's filling up a bit. And now, how can we get this to be assisted? One of the ways that the yogins figured is that when they breathe in, they can have the hands mirror the movement of the wind into the body. So as I'm inhaling, this starts to raise up as I'm inhaling through my lower kumbha. By the time I get to the lower kumbha getting full, it's about here. And now I start filling in my chest, the middle kumbha. I keep filling the middle kumbha, it gets up to about here, and this upper part of the chest is full. Now I'm going to go above the clavicles, now I'm going to try to fill up into the space of the neck. And I breathe up into the space of the neck, and breathe up as the hand makes the final position on top. It stretches everything and pulls it and pulls the breath and the air and the energy up into the top of the lungs, okay? Into that area, and you feel the pressure in the neck and the head. Then I reverse it. I exhale from here as the hand comes up. Then I exhale from the chest, the middle kumbha, as my hand comes to here. So this is all flat now. Then I exhale from the stomach as the lower kumbha, as the hand comes down to rest finally, and I'd be empty. So let's watch how that looks, okay? Exhale. Now, you may want to go a little bit faster. Your breath may not hold out so much right now. Later on it'll lengthen, no problem. So let's go a little bit faster. I just want to go once to show it slowly. So now we'll go a little bit faster so you can see it. Full here, exhale. One more. Belly lifting the hands. Now to the chest. Keep the belly full. Up to the neck. Emptying. Chest is emptying, flattening out. Belly starts to flatten. Okay, I can feel it in my toes. So the pranayama gets so much energy moving, and every single cell of your body gets a little bit of a stretch and a contraction through that movement with the hands. Helps you to feel it. Now, one of the things you don't want to do is when you bring your hands over, you don't want to arch. See what I'm doing with my lower back here? I don't want to arch this up because I want to fill and open. So if my shoulder is a bit constricted with this range of motion, I may just breathe in and keep it about here before I start to arch. But little by little, I want to stretch it out, and as I'm practicing yoga, it opens more, and I'll be able to bring it here, and my body won't arch, and I can still fill my body with the breath, okay? Okay. Now, the second thing I'd like you to do, once you get it down with your arms, I'd like you to do it with your arms and without the arms as well. So, let me move this arm away so you can see, but I would keep it here normally. And I'll do my natural yogic breathing like this. Exhale, inhale. Coordinating that motion. So you can see it's a natural wave that flows up with the breath and then flows back down, right? So when we inhale from the belly and then up into the chest. When we exhale from the chest and down into the belly. Inhale from the belly up into the chest, exhale chest down into the belly. This is natural yogic breathing. It's a very important practice to do because if we had 10 or 20, 30, 40, 50 years of life, 60 more, whatever, not breathing naturally, we have programmed the energy, the prana in our body to move in a certain way that's not right, not healthy, not natural. So this is the first way to recondition our breathing process, okay? And then, as you go out through your daily routine, you can start to become aware a little bit more about this breathing. And sometimes you can invoke it. Let's say you have a time where you don't have to use your brain and you're waiting in line at the bank. Then you're standing there holding your deposit or whatever, and you can just do that full yogic breathing, what we call double kumbha breathing. Later we'll call it double kumbha breathing, this and this kumbha. But when you lie down like this, we call yogic natural breathing, the first step in learning how to control our breath, how to breathe naturally again. And that alone will start to reorganize your nervous system, your energy system through the channels, and start to bring peace and relaxation into your mind already. So do it 2 times a day. Do it once in the morning. Give it 5 or 10 minutes. Do it once in the evening without any food in your belly. 5 or 10 more minutes until you get your next practice and we build up more of a practice routine.